I got some shocking new information that changes everything. Here's the spring 2025 psychic predictions, including some new intel on when the Trump presidency will end. Things are going to change very quickly. They're going to continue to change very quickly. And so I'm going to start out this video with something that I missed in another video that I did about the spring 2025 psychic predictions, and then go on to the new intel on when the Trump presidency will end. And then I'm going to finish up with 10 top predictions for spring of 2025. So I'm going to be reading a lot from my notes. That's the most efficient way for me to work. But firstly, remember that the timelines are fluid. There's nothing written in stone. The energies of today are going to help to dictate what happens tomorrow. So let's make our energies higher in today, in the now. But that said, the global political structure will change because it has to. But the more we raise consciousness, the easier the transition will be. And engaging in a strong spiritual practice is more important now than ever. That's what will see you through the transition and into the new earth, or the 5D, or the golden age, or whatever you want to call that. No, we'll be okay. They, the cabal, the globalists, whatever you want to call them, they want us all scared and easily controllable, to that way they can maintain control over us and continue their hold over humanity. Don't buy in. Know that no matter what, we're going to be okay. There's a higher purpose, and higher beings and higher consciousness is helping us. So again, engaging in a strong spiritual practice, that's more important than ever right now. So the first thing, and this is the thing that I missed in a prior video, an important thing, and that's the World War III agenda, that we're seeing components of that playing out right now. And I still don't believe, that's always been my prediction, that there won't be any World War III. I still believe that, but man, it's looking like we are heading in that direction. I have to be honest. Now, let me negotiate. Okay, so we're seeing negotiations breaking down between Ukraine and Russia. I feel like maybe it picks up again in April, but more likely in May and June, and we could still have a ceasefire on or around July. July is a hugely important month, and I'll get into that in a second. But that's been my prediction all along. Around that time, the timelines can change. In the interim, I'm seeing some of the worst attacks, yes, probably against Russia. We saw one last week, actually, or Ukraine. It could be in other parts of the world. There's the Middle East, there's Africa, there's Eastern Asia. There's a lot of conflict around the world, and it seems to be very much orchestrated to me. But in the interim, all right, I already read that. So also breakdown in hostage negotiations in the Middle East, deployment of troops. I mentioned this in my February and my March forecast, I think both, but either one, that I was seeing deployment of United States troops primarily to the Middle East. And I think we're starting to see that possibly playing out. And I also was seeing some level of reinstatement in the draft here in the U.S. And after I had made that prediction, I did a little bit of checking. I found out that enlistment is at an all-time low, or close to it. And if there's more struggles in the world, we'll need more soldiers. So, it is what it is. But we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. That's the operative word. We are strong. We are healthy, happy, whole, complete, and aligned with God and Source. We also see possible conflicts in Eastern Europe, possible religious conflict in a place like Turkey, which might sound like a WTF, but there's actually two different forms of Islam that are predominant in that country. It may be more political, and as I'm talking, I feel like experiencing more on the political, but it hits the religion. Other parts of Eastern Europe, all that area. So there's also the issues with the trade wars. We also see the European Union preparing for war. What happens in the EU happens in the US weeks to a month or two later. That's been a pattern lately. So we're probably going to see that in if you're American like myself, in our country too. We see both private investors and bank assets being allotted to war efforts now. And we were likely to see that also in the U.S. What does bank assets mean? It means our savings, basically. My suggestion is get your money out of a bank. Go into a credit union like I am. I mean, that's not foolproof either, but it's safer there. Have cash on hand, have supplies on hand. I was also seeing missiles flying over water onto land, and that could be a major strike that's happening. And that could be one of a number of places, but Middle East is certainly high on the list. But then, there's the Koreas. There's things going on in other areas. So, it's a lot to take in, I know. There are other things. Just don't buy into the fear and the hype, but stay aware and vigilant. That's my best advice. Remember, a lot of what we see is a show. And what happens behind the scenes, we see a whole different geopolitical structure existing, and perceived enemies are really allies in some cases anyways, pushing forth the same globalist agenda. So a lot of it's subversive, a lot of it's hidden. Remember, war is a hugely profitable venture, as well as it's a very efficient means of controlling the masses and pushing forth more agendas to basically take more freedoms away and get us more under their control, so that the rich and powerful can be more rich and more powerful, while the rest of us are poorer and more in a servitude mindset to the globalists. Anyways, moving right along. Also remember, the U.S. has been involved in more wars, I think, since the 1940s or 1950s than any other country. I think I read something a few years ago that every other country combined, but don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. But we've been involved in more wars than any other country. And we have a president who definitely will not shy away, though I don't think that he's warmongering, but some of you will have different opinions on that, to be sure, and certainly from what we see, it's understandable. I'll put it that way. But people in general do not want war, right? And not all heads of state do either. And we know, at least on some level, that Trump is negotiating peace. If that's more cosmetic or real, again, subject to our perceptions, but lines in the sand are definitely being drawn. And the more we can raise consciousness, the more we're going to be able to expose the evil behind these agendas, and the more that the World War III agenda is not going to happen. So that's the main thing. So getting to Donald Trump, the change that I'm seeing on my prediction is based on new information that I received right after I shot my last video, which was early last week. This is coming out Saturday, filming this Friday. So I got this new information. It came through very, very strong. Then one of our viewers, who's also a psychic, that would be Fractal Soul 1111. If you're watching, say hi to us, because your comment helped motivate me to do this video, because she commented like a day after I got this information saying the exact same thing. And I was like, all right, Spirit is definitely telling me something that I need to pass on to you. Now, if you support Donald Trump, I know some of you do. I'm nonpartisan, so I attract people on both sides of the political spectrum, which is a beautiful thing, I think, because I'm speaking to all of you. Be in the heart. The heart's the center. The left wing and the right wing belong to the same corrupt bird. The heart is the center. That's where you're going to find truth. That's where you're going to find your power. And that's where you're going to make a difference. But if you support Donald Trump, no, there's still a way he can save his presidency and change the timelines once again. But my prediction, all right, we said that. So my original prediction was for 2.5 years. You guys know that are watching the videos. I also said, but there's a distinct possibility that it could happen in April. And what I mean by that is being removed from office. But what came through, was the month of July. That's what came through, that he would be, could be June, July, or August. But the month of July came up, that's the month that he would be removed from office in the current timelines that I'm picking up on. Most likely cause of him the most likely cause of him to step down. It's just extreme pushback, and that the Democrats, the Republicans, interestingly, I've seen a woman involved. It'd be interesting if Kamala Harris got back on the political bandwagon. I mean, I think the protocol is if he steps down, Vance steps up. But, there's a lot of intrigue and a lot of subtleties. I'll probably get clearer information on that aspect of things as we get closer to that. But understand also, so I feel like he'll be forced down, but there's still a palpable threat of another assassination attempt around April. Now, to my understanding, they thwarted a potential threat recently in Washington, D.C. Whether that's real or not, I don't know. But I've seen that as an inside job and a definite threat. Sometimes these things do get discovered. They get nipped in the bud. They don't happen, and it appears that the psychic is wrong. And I could be wrong. I'm human. But having said that, usually it is correct. And very often things don't show up on mainstream news. But I still feel like there's a palpable threat. And there's still a host of health issues that are likely to be surfacing between now and the summer. So there's that stuff also. Now, July, like I said, that's a very interesting month. What we're seeing in my forecast is that April's, from the equinox, which just happened, through April, extreme change, very, very dicey. Then numerologically speaking, May and June are a little bit gentler. I mean, there's still going to be a lot of change and a lot of strife, but that's more healing. But July in numerology is a number 16 month. That reduces to 7. 16 is the tower in the tarot. In Chaldean numerology, it symbolizes the lightning as the shattered citadel. So basically, it means that the old tower has to fall. The tower, it's a weak structure built on the foundation of greed, power over others. So it's a house of cards. It's not going to take much to blow it down, and then we'll be able to build on the stronger foundation. Remember, there's higher frequencies acting on the earth, and that's dislodging and replacing the older frequencies. So the way the world is set up, the governments, the countries, corporations, all of that is built on those lower frequencies of greed, power over others, control. They cannot survive in these new frequencies, and they have to fall. One way or another, it's going to happen. So stay in our heart, stay in our power, and continue to teach love, preach love, and practice love. Raise the collective, and that's going to soften the blow of the transition from the old earth to the new earth. So anyway, what else? So one way or another, huge teardowns are likely then. So if we get a little reprieve, July is going to be the next phase of the teardown of the old facades of a society we once knew, and leading to August and September, which and October too, numerologically, would support a rebuild and more love and more spirituality, basically. So for Trump to survive, he's got to be more reasonable, and it might help. It might be good if he really took care of his health also. He has to be more reasonable. If he truly wants to stay in office and make a difference, he has to know when to play nice and when to push back. Rage does not win battles. Strategy wins battles. And that's something that I think that our president is having a hard time understanding. But anyway, that's what I have for you. I'm sure as the story unfolds, I'll have more videos for you. But for the top 10 psychic predictions for 2025, for spring of 2025, check the video out over here. And we're going to get through this, connect with community, preach love, and please like, comment, and share this video and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy our work.